Today on Beyond 6 Seconds.
We're here to engage and live fully, to think deeply about what would light us up, what would make us feel like we were making a difference, and to go do it.
Welcome to Beyond 6 Seconds, the podcast that goes beyond the 6-second first impression to share the extraordinary stories and achievements of everyday people. I'm your host, Carin Rockind. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Carin Rockind. Carin is a leading happiness expert, motivational speaker, and the creator of Purpose Girl, a movement to empower purpose-driven living. She's taught thousands of people real-life strategies to reclaim their happiness and live to their fullest potential of success and well-being. Having survived divorce and armed robbery, she teaches others to be resilient through stress and grow from trauma. After 15 years as a marketing executive, Carin pursued her great passion, teaching women to thrive. Carin was one of the first 250 people in the world to earn a master's degree in applied positive psychology from the University of Pennsylvania, where she has also served as adjunct faculty. Carin speaks at companies worldwide, including Morgan Stanley, Avon, BMW, and Progressive Insurance. She's a regular contributor to national media and served as the happiness guru on SiriusXM's Stars Radio. She is currently launching Women's Global Happiness Day in over 50 cities around the globe. Carin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. I'm excited to be here.
So happy to have you here today. You have a really amazing story from how you came from marketing and working the typical corporate career into the work you're doing now with happiness coaching, motivational speaking, and helping women all around the world. Could you tell me a little bit about your journey towards discovering and living your own purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know about you, Carolyn, but when I was a little girl, all I wanted was to get married, right? Get married, have the house, have the dog, and like life would be happy and perfect. And I followed that. I got married at 22 years old, tall, dark, handsome lawyer, green eyes, chiseled cheeks. You know, we lived in a huge house. I was 24 living in the suburbs with like a 2,500 square foot house and an enormous yard and our purebred golden retriever. I mean, life looked like it was always supposed to look. But still, I would cry almost every day.
Wow.
I was so unhappy. And I would scream at my husband for things that he didn't do or did, or, you know, it was like, I just was so unhappy. And he would say to me, "What's wrong with you?" And I thought something really was wrong with me. And what I realized, I went to therapy and realized that I didn't know who I was. I had been following what everybody else said would make me happy. You know what? My parents have been married, God bless them, 52 years and so happy. My grandparents were married 68 years. And I just followed this recipe, this like Ladies' Home Journal or 17 magazine, you know, what Cosmo told us to do.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting divorced at 26. And, you know, just as my other friends were getting married, and really began my journey to what is happiness. And meanwhile, I was in marketing and a rising kind of star in my field at the time. And I started volunteering with high school girls. I kind of was lost and didn't know what to do with myself. And I volunteered with a Jewish youth group. I'm Jewish. And here were these girls that were so excited about the future, right? Looking at what college they wanted to go to, what they wanted to do with their life. But they also felt so bad about themselves. You know, several of them had eating disorders, felt like they weren't as smart as their older sister or older brother. Their parents were telling them that they had to become a lawyer or doctor, and they wanted to be an artist. You know, there was like so much uncertainty. And I just found this real love of seeing these girls for who they were and their strengths and empowering them along their strengths, and to be able to say, "Oh my God, Carolyn, you're so creative. Everybody loves your creativity." Like, and empower and lift them up along that. It was so good, Carolyn. It was like a drug. I'm like, this is so amazing. And I had this inkling of what happiness really was, because I felt so fulfilled doing this work with these girls. And at the same time, I actually started online. I was like giving advice to other young divorced women and like cheerleading them, and we can do it. And my whole life became about women's empowerment, but that wasn't what I was being paid for, right? I was being paid for automotive marketing, and like, I know nothing about cars, or I don't care about cars. But I'm from Detroit, and that's what you do when you're from Detroit. And so I thought, well, okay, this is what I want to do with my life, but how? And people would say to me, "You want to be Oprah?" I'm like, I do want to be Oprah. I think we all want to be Oprah a little bit, you know, but like, how? It was so big. And I couldn't figure out the path. I became overwhelmed with it. And this is over a series of years. I ended up actually becoming severely depressed. And I went back to another lawyer, almost married him, like another BMW, like the same kind of life I was living and almost exactly. And I became so severely depressed because it was like, I know I'm here for a purpose. And the truth is I was just too afraid to live it. And I made myself sick. I got shingles. I was 34, even though I was a marathon runner. And then one day I was living in Cleveland, Ohio at the time for my job. And one day I was walking home at night, actually after a bad blind date. And I was laughing on the phone about it with my sister who was in California. And we're cracking up and laughing. And I go to put my key in the condo door. And suddenly I feel hot breath on my neck. And I turn around, Carolyn, and I am nose to nose with this sad young man. And he had these huge, like saucer-shaped eyes, and they were black and sad. And I looked at him and I said, well, are you going inside? I thought maybe he had a friend in the building. And the next thing you know, he looks at my stomach and he pulls a gun. Oh. And in that moment, I go to the floor. I mean, I screamed. I don't even know. It's like, I know I just started screaming bloody terror. I'm on the floor, my hands over my head. I'm screaming, please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. I look up and now the gun is at my left temple and I can like see the bottom of his shirt. And I'm having that moment. It's like my last moment on earth and praying and saying, okay, God, like it's been a good life. Tell my parents. And then some other voice came over me, Carolyn. And it was like a really strong, calm voice. And it was a woman. Mm-hmm. And she said, oh no, you were put on this earth for purpose and women need you. Oh. And so at that moment I said, okay, God, if you let me live, I promise I will pursue that purpose. And just at that moment, the man took my purse and he ran. And so I realized that the only thing that was stopping me from empowering women as a career, which is what I wanted, was fear. Mm-hmm. I was just too afraid to leave my vice president title, too afraid to leave my 6-figure salary, too afraid to be without health insurance, even though at the time, I think Obamacare was just coming about. It was like there were options.
Right.
I had just convinced myself that it was foolish, irresponsible, silly, ridiculous, impossible. Who did I think I was? I'm not Oprah, all of that. But when you have a gun to your head, you look at things a little bit. I looked at things differently and I realized life is short. And the worst thing for me would be getting to the end of my life and looking back and saying, I never fulfilled the purpose that I know in my heart and soul I was put here for. And so I just made the decision. I am going for it no matter what. And I decided I want to go back to graduate school because I want some sort of foundation I can tell my stories and empower women, but I wanted some sort of education. And actually the first education I looked at was because I knew I wanted to also be a writer, write women's empowerment. I looked for a master's degree in fine arts and creative writing. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, I got rejected from every school I applied to.
Wow.
Every single one. And I was like, doesn't matter. Okay, what's next? Wow. And a friend of mine had posted something on my Facebook page. You're so positive. Have you seen this? And it was a link to this field called positive psychology, which is the scientific study of happiness and human flourishing. It was started by a very famous professor at the University of Pennsylvania. I followed the link. I start watching these videos, reading the science, and I was crying. Wow. I mean, tears of joy. My whole heart sang. I felt like I was home. And it was exactly what I'd always been looking for. And so I applied. I got in and I started grad school at Penn on my 36th birthday, which is super significant. In Judaism, every letter has a number. Mm-hmm. Every number has a letter associated with it. And so the number 18 means life. Oh. And so 36 is double life, or my second life.
Wow.
And it was my 36th birthday when I started school. It was incredible. And so I left my vice president's salary. I owned a boat in Cleveland. I sold it. I owned a condo. I rented it out. I took this big leap to start my life over again and become a poor grad student at 36, where I was like rationing out. Can I afford toast? Only make one piece because we don't know if we're that hungry. And, with my dad saying to me, that is the stupidest decision I have ever heard. And it's turned into the best decision of my life because I just decided then and there, I'm going for it. So when I went to school and I asked, hey, can I be a TA? Can I do, work for the Positive Psychology Center? They said no. So instead I hunted down a different professor at Penn and asked her, can I be her TA? I kind of skirted the system. And she said, absolutely.
Oh.
And so she let me grade all of her papers and I ended up teaching a couple of classes. And then that led me to propose having my own class at Penn. And then I had this inkling I want to be on the radio. So I started asking people, do you know anyone in radio? And like all this stuff has been scary. And eventually someone said, yes, I know someone at Sirius XM and connected me. And when I met with this woman, she was like, you're a nobody, because I'm not famous. I'm not a Kardashian, and I was like, but I have this fancy degree and I know all this stuff. And so she said, I'll tell you what, I'll put you on my morning show and we'll see how you do. And then I was on that show for 5 years. So, it's like, I'm scared every day, but I have had a gun to my head. And so I just have decided I'm not letting fear get in the way anymore.
Wow. That's incredible. I feel like a lot of us grow up with this idea of what we're supposed to do in life. And some people generally don't really even know what their purpose is or what they want to do. But it sounds like you figured it out pretty early on that this is what you wanted to do. You wanted to empower women to find their purpose and help young girls, respect and love themselves. But even though you knew that this was your purpose, it still took a hugely traumatic event, having a gun to your head. But even then, it's still not like everything just immediately turned around after that. You still had to really work through fear and obstacles to get where you wanted to be.
Oh, big time. And rejection. Remember, I got rejected from all those schools at first. I think most of us do not know our purpose. Most of us, I think about what do I want to be when I grow up? And most kids don't know. And we ask 18-year-olds to pick a career if they want to go into medicine or something where they need to, begin studying an undergraduate. And I think it's a real tragedy because we don't know at 18 and we ask 10-year-olds, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, what does a little kid know? They know their doctor and teacher, but there's so much work in the world that is creative. I mean, look at this. There was no such thing as podcasting.
Right.
Yeah. We were growing up. And so you couldn't have said, well, I want to be a podcaster, because if you wanted to share your message on air, there were only a few spots for people to end up being on a radio show. So there's so much creative work in the world. And I did not know. I switched majors 5 or 6 times in college. After I went to my first day of work when I graduated, came home, my parents and fiance were like, how was it? How'd you like it? I'm like, not for me.
Oh.
Okay, what is for you? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I really did grapple with it and struggle with it. And what I ended up doing, and some of what I advise to other people, is we have to follow the things that interest you, that inspire you, that excite you. I think it's a terrible tragedy to go around, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? What's my purpose? We don't know.
Right.
That is only going to make the mind go into fight flight mode. It's like when you lose your keys, think about it. Like, I want to find my purpose. Well, if you have to find something, it means it's lost. And when you lose your keys, like, I don't know about you, Carolyn, I lose my keys all the time. Okay. Or it's like once I actually lost my car in the mall parking lot at Christmas.
Oh, I've done that. Yeah.
Right.
It's bad.
Oh my God. So bad, such panic. And it's like, where is it? Well, when you're in that place, what actually happens to the brain is that the brain narrows and you're in fight flight mode and you literally are only focused, like you're in the stress. Well, when you're in the stress, you can't be in the creative place of following or even knowing what you love and what to enjoy. So I advise people, don't try to look for your purpose. Don't say, I'm going to find my purpose. Instead, come from a place of positivity. And this is what we know, what positive emotions do for the brain is positive emotions open you up to creativity, open you up to expansion and building new connections. So if you approach it, not what is my purpose, but you approach it like, what are some topics I've been interested in and have never allowed myself to pursue? Like go to the bookstore and start reading a book, not because ultimately that has to be your purpose, but when you're in a place of interest, inspiration, or you look back at your life and you say, when have I felt so good about myself? And you come up with all those moments. They might be like middle school or college. One of my clients, when we did this exercise, a moment she was so proud of was when she was in high school and planned the whole prom committee. And it was like, oh, okay, well, what was it about that? Oh my God, I was getting to be creative. I was getting to, right? And it was, oh, okay, so now we're getting information. So instead of what's my purpose, that's an approach that research shows actually people who are trying to find their purpose, it puts you into anxiety mode and actually makes us unhappy. So you want to shift it, forget about that. And instead follow some positivity and see where your curiosity takes you and enjoyment. And then, which is what happened with me and the high school girls, And then the messages will start coming to you because you'll get so excited about something.
Yeah. To build on what you were saying, I, for myself, tend to be someone who likes to sit around and think about stuff a lot. And it's important to think about and reflect on, your experiences, but also important to try new things and do things. If you're interested in something, I don't know, try it out. You might like it, you might hate it, because a lot of things you really don't know if you're passionate about them until you try them.
Exactly. I'm like you. Give me any personality test. I love taking it.
Yep.
Give me any, I want to know my values. And each of these are an important piece. I say, get curious about who you are. So I do want people out there to spend the time in reflection. But reflection, instead of like, well, what's the perfect job for me? Reflection instead is, when have I been really excited about life? When have I been really proud of myself? What did I want to do as a kid? And what information does that have for me? Like for me, Carolyn, one of the things I wanted to be as a kid was a professional cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I wanted to be as a kid was an OBGYN, because I used to, when I was in middle school, I'm like, I just want to help women give birth. I want to help women give birth. I can look back now and say, oh, well, what was it about that? Well, it was helping women. It was birthing something. I can look back at cheerleading. What was that about? Well, that was about inspiring and, getting people on their feet. And so sometimes it's like, if we can get curious about our joy, about our interest, it will put together a puzzle instead of just going for, I call it the theory of the nouns, which is that if you just think of purpose as a noun, like, am I supposed to be an architect or a teacher or a, doctor? Your brain, it's not going to work. Instead, I want you to get curious about who you are and what your strengths are, what your values are, what your life experiences have taught you that you have to share with the world, and then let that add up to what are the possible careers that I can do with this.
Yeah. Do you feel that everyone in the world has a purpose that they just need to find, or are some people just kind of happy living out their lives? And I wonder if purpose is that like a construct of our Western society with now that we have the introduction of leisure time, that we've automated a lot of work through the Industrial Revolution, or does everybody in the world have a purpose?
Such a good question. So I can tell you what the research says, right? So what the research says is we don't know, right? Because purpose is one of those things. It's not just career. It's who you are and why you're here. Purpose is the unique active impact that you make in the world. And so does everyone come here with a driving purpose? We don't know. What we know is that people who identify as having purpose, who feel like their life is about something larger than themselves, is making a difference, those people are happier and have longer life satisfaction. What I personally believe, I believe each of us does have a purpose, or else why would we be here? So I personally believe, this isn't research, I personally believe that we're souls having a human experience. And that the only reason that our soul came here at this time is because it has some purpose to live out. And typically that purpose comes through painful experience, through learning from that painful experience, through gaining wisdom that then you go on and you share, whether you're sharing it in a huge way like Oprah, or you're sharing it with your children or with your community. So I really believe that that is why we're here. And therefore, we're here to engage and live fully, to think deeply about what would light us up, what would make us feel like we were making a difference, and to go do it. That said, I think there are plenty of people who are just kind of like, I don't really need a purpose or want a purpose. I'm just happy living my life. So I think it's all of the above. Even those people who are like, I don't need a purpose, I don't believe that that's true. I believe that that's probably a lot of, like a client of mine was saying to me recently that a friend of hers, they were in a book club and the whole book club conversation became about purpose. And this woman said, why do you have to have a purpose? Why can't, I have a job, it's fine. I'm in this marriage, it's fine. And so she and I were talking about it, and it's like, well, here's this woman who's saying that everything's fine, but do you really want to live it fine?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound very inspiring. And so it sounded to me more like a defense mechanism to not have to think more deeply about life.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If we think of purpose as this big, huge thing, what's my purpose? That we know from the research makes us, and from personal experience, makes us miserable.
Yeah.
If we do it the flip side, which is we say purpose is the unique way that you are actively impacting the world. And you look around at your life and you say, who am I impacting? How am I currently making an impact? How am I impacting my family? How am I impacting my neighborhood? Whose life is better because I'm in it? And how? Then everyone does have purpose. And I think it's a much healthier way to think about it.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense to not put that huge pressure on yourself to figure out your purpose. I know sometimes I kind of hope that my life purpose will come out of the sky and beam me on the head one day, but really you discover it from all those things you were describing before about thinking and reflecting and trying things and just seeing what lights you up and what interests you and building on it from there.
Right. Well, watching you, knowing you for the last few years, watching you so excited about your podcast. And witnessing you, a podcast isn't about being a podcaster. It's about having a message and wisdom that you want to share with the world because you know it's needed. And that's purpose. And so it's been really fun to watch you launch.
Thank you. And plus all the extra things that I didn't expect would come out of it. So some things I knew going in that I wanted to, get better at interviewing people and try creating things, but I never realized all of the amazing people I would meet, all of the great deep connections and potential collaborations that people would want to do with me. So it's sort of that you can't see everything on the way to a goal. So I feel like it's helpful to have a goal and a general direction that you want to move in for your purpose, but, be open and be flexible to all the other amazing things that can happen that you just can't see yet.
Exactly. It's so interesting. I was having a conversation with my rabbi actually this morning about, I had a miscarriage about a year ago, and it still is, I'm still in the why phase, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good at turning pain into purpose. Like that's been pretty much the story of my life. And he said something that's profound, and probably I've heard it before, but it hit me in a different way today. He said, we often don't know the why until much later when we look back. And so relating to what you just said about purpose, perhaps, sometimes it's like my purpose hit me when I was working with the girls and working with women who were getting divorced. And it was like, oh my God, this is what I love. This is what I'm aching to do. And I think that there are a lot of us who have that. And I think a lot of us who have that don't follow it. Okay. So I think I know that there are a lot of people out there who have had an ache to start a podcast, an ache to write a book, an ache to be painting, an ache to one of my clients who had an ache to be painting, but never did because it was when she was a kid, she saw those starving artist commercials. Do you remember those? It would and she remembers as a kid thinking, well, I don't want to starve.
Right.
So she just never pursued it. And I'm thrilled now they got rid of their guest bedroom in their home and set up a studio, and she sold her first painting. And so is she yet making enough money to feed her family? No, but she's happy because she's living. It's like, so, and another client of mine always wanted to be a nurse, but her dad told her computers were the thing. And if you go into IT, you're always going to have job security. And so sometimes I think we do get the calling and we know it. We're just so afraid to pursue it. So that's one aspect here of purpose. Another is you genuinely don't know, and you need to go through some of that reflection and that, what are my strengths and when have I been at my best and what has lit me up before, and so many of the exercises we talked about and others. And sometimes it is that, like you were saying, the trial and error. And then you look back and you go, oh, that's how I've impacted the world. That's how I've been making an impact. And that's pretty cool. And then to be satisfied with that. And then if you want to take however it is that you've already been impacting, you notice that you're the person that everybody comes to for advice. And you think, I really would like to try to make some money at this. Then you can turn that into a career. Yeah. So there's a lot of different pathways into it. And I want to answer one other part of your question, which is like, is this just like a first world problem, this purpose thing? In some ways, yes. In some ways, yes. And in some ways, no. So Abraham Maslow was one of the most famous psychologists who ever lived. And in the 60s, he presented the hierarchy of needs, where he identified that there were 5 basic human needs. And like the most basic human need is food and water, right? Clean air to breathe. Like you can't live without those things. And the next is shelter and safety. And so it's like why we see someone who's homeless, they're more concerned with getting something to eat than they are with getting a home, because the basic human need. So there are these 5 needs, and you don't really care about the next higher need until the lower need is met. Yeah. Well, the 4th need that he identified is achievement or esteem. And the 5th and the highest need that he identified is what he called self-actualization, contributing of yourself to something larger, impact, purpose. And so what makes sense to me is, at least in the Western world, we have achieved and overachieved, right? We are achievement junkies.
Mm-hmm.
Running around, I lived in New York for a while. I know you're near New York.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's like, and even if you're not in New York, you're like getting in your car, you're going to work, trying to get the promotion, trying to get a raise, trying to get more. We're achievement junkies. And it's not making us satisfied, deeply satisfied. And so his theory is holding true, I think, in today's world. This is why people are so purpose hungry right now, that we've achieved and overachieved. And then we look around our life and we go, all right, so I have a nice car, but what else is there?
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you're wanting something bigger, and that is purpose. That said, the other way to think about purpose is spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, I think we can find in a lot of Eastern religions where purpose, it's not about a career or money. There is a sense that every single one of us is here for greater purpose. And no one's trying to find their purpose. They understand in community, I'm here to be myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be me, whatever that is in my community and with my true heart and soul. And then I'm fulfilling my purpose. And it's not this big, huge, right? It's just being your authentic self and contributing your authentic self. So those are other aspects of it. So I don't think it's just a first world problem. I think, though, that we've lost touch with who we are because we were so driven to achieve. That's why I actually think of purpose as uncovering, not finding. It's like getting back to who you are. And then being yourself in the world, your whole true self, and doing what's actually in your heart instead of letting fear get in the way.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And I think it's something that we can all aspire to if we spend the time to really listen to what our heart is saying and don't put so much pressure on ourselves to get it right on the first shot. It's a learning process, the whole thing.
Totally. And we might not really know until we look back at our lives, and then we can say, oh, this was my purpose. Yeah. And that's okay too. Yeah, we need to add some humor into the whole purpose conversation and laugh at ourselves with it.
Yeah, no, it's true. Just take the pressure off. Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm,
so what have been some of the most meaningful success stories or experiences that you've had with the people you've coached or the organizations you've coached so far?
Yeah, really good question. So I just mentioned a couple of examples that have felt really meaningful to me. Another example is a woman that I worked with who came to me feeling like she wanted out of her marriage. She wanted out of her job. Wow. She just wanted out of every aspect of life, and had 2 kids and, the quote unquote perfect life. And as we dove deeper, she actually joined one of my sisterhoods. And I have found that what is severely lacking in women's happiness is connection, like real, true connection, authentic connection, and sisterhood. And it is a huge key to happiness, which we can talk about in a bit. And she joined one of my sisterhoods, and she started sharing her story that she had gained a lot of weight when she had her second child. And everyone was so inspired by her. And she didn't even realize how inspiring she was, having lost 40 pounds. And they were asking her, how'd you do it? And she was, she had said to me, I don't know about joining this women's group. I've had bad experience with, other women in my life and whatnot. Well, through our work together and realizing how powerful her story was, she ended up doing 2 amazing things. One, healing her marriage, which she says is the most important thing that she did, because she was not showing up authentically in her own marriage. She wasn't showing up as a whole woman. She was coming at the marriage from a resentful place or looking for what's wrong, and just becoming happier in herself. She realized that she wanted to bring more of herself to the marriage. And the way she became happier in herself is that these other women were asking her about her story, and they were so inspired. And she started teaching them what she did to lose that baby weight and about her own health journey. And she's like, I love Sonic Burger. She's from Texas. So she was not telling anyone just, drink your green juice. And, she had her own way about it. She ended up going back to school, getting her certificate in nutrition, health coaching, and starting a business and, coaching women nutrition. And I send people to her if, that's not my gig. So I send people to her, and people are always so inspired by her. And then as she was happier, she was able to heal her marriage. Yeah. And so that was just such a powerful, powerful example. Another woman who is very high up in a big Fortune 100 company that I worked with, she came to me and she was always making what she felt like were really poor decisions in relationships. And as we dove into all this work, so you and I talked a lot, Carolyn, about purpose. Under all of that is really my mission is to empower women to love themselves and to live their purpose. But it's like loving yourself comes first. And she realized that she always had kind of old stories about who she had to be in a relationship with a man, and therefore was always making really bad choices. And so just her shifting her love for herself and just accepting nothing less than the partner that she and I did work on what she wants in a partner, how she wants to feel. And this was a few years ago, and she got engaged a few months ago and sent me, this thing about getting engaged and that she thinks of me every day. And with it, we also did her purpose and purpose work. And she was so inspired to start. She was a single mother. To start working with other single mothers. And she didn't leave her job, but a way of doing things in a volunteer way. She ended up going with her church to Israel and then there was a shelter for single women and single mothers and ended up raising money for them. And so was able to really get in touch with what's going to make me happy. And she didn't have to leave her job, but she started doing this other work for using her wisdom, using her passion around single moms, and being strong in herself and self-love. And it's just been a joy to witness and to watch.
Wow.
So those are just a couple examples. Oh, one more, as long as you're asking me.
Yeah.
Well, and I can give you corporate examples as well. I did a workshop recently for Victoria's Secret executives. So one of the things I do is coach women individually. And one of the things I do is work with corporations, either doing keynote speeches at their conferences. Like next week, I'm actually the keynote speaker at Capital One's Women's Conference. And it's not always in corporations to women, it's women and men. And I did a workshop with Victoria's Secret executives 2 months ago. And the executives were men and women. But given my desire to empower women to feel good about themselves, there, I think, is almost no more important company than Victoria's Secret. Because women aspire to these images and want to feel beautiful. And I think it's a real opportunity for them to feel beautiful, depending on how Victoria's Secret, markets and brands and promotes. And I, this beautiful experience, I went in and talked to them, told them about a friend of mine who had died of breast cancer. And that when she had a double mastectomy, what made her feel okay and normal again was a friend of hers taking her to Victoria's Secret and putting on sexy bras and letting herself be sexy again. And it was so powerful to see the looks on the faces of these people, because they could see that they have bigger impact than just selling shampoo or perfume and, in a bra, that they really have the opportunity to make women feel beautiful. And by the end of the workshop, we worked on what is their larger purpose. And the head of creative said something to that effect, that we are in a position to empower. I think he said, we have more women, we're the number one beauty business or something to that effect. And so we have the opportunity to empower more women to feel beautiful than anyone else. And I had tears in my eyes because that it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. So, that was what's their higher purpose beyond just kind of selling widgets.
Right.
What's their overall, the bigger goal that they want to go for? Because research is actually showing now that purpose is the key to corporate success, because people want meaningful work. And if you have this aspiration of empowering women to feel beautiful, you will sell more stuff. But as opposed to you just want to sell more stuff, you're not actually going to sell as much as the higher purpose goal, and people won't be as happy working there. So we then got down to, based on that larger corporate vision of purpose, each person then saying what their individual purpose was within that. And it was so powerful. And I felt so honored. And it's a company that I think is already doing amazing things, like for my friend Bonnie, may she rest in peace, and can continue to do so.
Wow, that's fantastic. And it sounds like a lot of your work with organizations and with individual clients is not only helping them uncover their purpose, but to really understand the impact that they're having on other people. Because a lot of times we take our skills and our strengths for granted, and we're just like, that's so easy for me to do. Why is that important? But it's not easy for other people. And sometimes that strength that you have is really something that inspires other people, as you've said, or it's just really something that people are looking for.
Exactly. I can't tell you how many times one of the exercises I'll do with clients is around knowing their strengths. And someone will talk about, they'll do an online assessment or a couple of different ways that I do that with clients. And then they say, yeah, but everybody's like that.
Yeah.
Like one of my clients, kindness and generosity was a top strength. And she said, but that's just what you're supposed to do. And I said, but not everybody does it.
Yeah.
So you might say that's what mom and grandma or, rabbi or priest always said you were supposed to do. But this is something that's special about you and you're actually enacting it. Yeah. And so really owning, I can't tell you, especially in the world of women, how many women do not own what is wonderful and great about them. Mm-hmm. We have been taught it's not polite to brag, don't boast, it's arrogant. And so and this is more of a gender thing, it's not absolute, but it is more of a gender thing where, you'll tell a woman, I might tell you something about like your radio. I think you have an exceptional radio voice, Carolyn.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And you say, thank you. But how many women would go, oh, no, I need to improve on it. Or, I tell you, you have a great dress and you're like, oh no, I got it 10 years ago at Target. Like we just diminish ourselves and it's not healthy. Yeah. Because we do have an income gap, between men and women. And one of the reasons for that is that women aren't standing up and being really proud of their strengths and sharing their pride stories. And I think it's a huge opportunity for us.
It's so true. And it's funny that the compliment that you just shared with me about my radio voice and my responsive thank you, believe it or not, my natural instinct was to say, oh, no, you're just saying that, just being polite, just to push it off. But I learned it was through my high school youth group, was literally the phrase like, just say thanks. Yeah. Just say thanks. That's it. That's all you have to say. And it's like, it's like, just say no, but this one actually works better. It's like, just say thanks. Mm-hmm. And so it's been decades since I learned that, but every time I get a compliment like that, I have to kind of override it with like, just say thank you. Just say thanks. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I often teach women, I do take women on a lot of retreats all over the world. My next one is actually a week and a half from now in Greece. And I often on retreats will teach women to actually take a breath in when you receive a compliment, like take it in, and then to say, thank you, I receive. And it's like really receiving it. Yeah. Right. Because even thank you, we can like deflect sometimes, but it's true. Thank you with a period is great. Or if you can breathe it in. One of the things I've become super passionate about lately is I've been passionate about women's happiness. And I think that my childhood dreams, were indicative of it with wanting to be an OBGYN. Mm-hmm. And I have become really passionate about the women's depression epidemic. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do not realize, but women statistically are twice as depressed as men. And on top of that, a University of Pennsylvania study came out a few years ago that showed that women today, or women when the study was done a few years ago, were less happy than women had been 30 years prior. Wow. Depending on which study you look at, between 80 to 90% of women hate their bodies. Mm-hmm. I mean, we are waging war on our bodies. Mm-hmm. We can see all of this disparity. Women are less confident in men. Whether you look, there are studies that have been done with medical students where they show men and women are equally competent, but women are less confident. Mm-hmm. The same with nursing students, finance. I mean, you can find it everywhere. And we have to change this. We absolutely have to change this because women are so deserving. I'm not saying men aren't either, but women are so deserving of feeling so good about themselves. I mean, every being alive has come from woman. Every being alive has come from woman. And women are graduating in higher numbers from universities, which means we're going into the workforce in higher numbers right now. We are still the major caretakers of the home and children, even though it's equaling out a little bit more, women still are. And we're the major consumers, like who buys the Christmas gifts and birthday gifts? It's for the most part women. I mean, we are contributing so much to society and we're feeling so bad about ourselves. And so when I went through it's my second miscarriage in about a year ago, I became so severely depressed, Carolyn. And here I am, a happiness expert. I became so severely depressed. And what ended up healing me was sisterhood, women gathering around me, friends being in touch with me every day, my college friends leaving their own families to fly in and be with me. I did all of my own work that I do, lots of time in self-compassion and meditation. And in that time of darkness, I just kept saying to God, higher source, universe, power, whatever you call it, just show me what I'm here to birth. And what kept coming to me were all the women like me who were feeling depressed in dark rooms by themselves, but had no tools. And I had this vision, Carolyn, because I've seen it on my retreats. I've seen it in the women's groups that I run. I had this vision of women gathering in small circles all over the world on one day to educate the world about the women's depression epidemic. I mean, I want to raise awareness that this is a real issue. And it impacts, since we have the major influence on kids, that means our depression is impacting kids.
Yep.
And since we aren't in the workforce in exactly 50-50, but almost, and that means that our happiness is having a major impact on the workforce. And because we are the major consumers, right? But a major reason we're depressed is that people are trying to sell us that we need to be better, thinner, prettier, et cetera. So our happiness really matters. And I think women have the right to be like beyond happy, joyful, proud of themselves, no matter what your body shape is, no matter anything. And so I'm on this crusade right now. And so I had this idea that women would gather in small circles and really connect and all over the world to raise awareness about the women's depression epidemic and to educate women in the tools of the science of happiness and positive psychology and to empower women all over the world. And I'm so honored and excited that vision is coming true. And on October 18th, it will be the inaugural. And then anyone listening to this after October 18th, we're going to do it every year. And in the inaugural year, I so far have 45 events happening all over the world, from Nigeria to New Zealand to Israel to Bali, many places in the US and Canada. And I'm just blown away. We're going to have, it's called Women's Global Happiness Day. And I'm just so passionate about women loving who they are. And that's what this is all about.
That's fantastic. So you have people in each of those locations hosting or arranging these circles of women on that day and kind of a sisterhood?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah. So it's just kind of spreading like wildfire. I told a few women about the idea, women who have studied positive psychology in different parts of the world. And they said, I'll hold an event, and trying to make it really simple on womenshappy.com. That's the website, womenshappy.com. You just register to host an event and you just invite 10 of your friends and they sign up. And I'm providing the sample curriculum and a training. And it's just a way for women to gather and learn some tools and really declare we deserve better. And we're going to take it in our own hands. We're going to take happiness because we know from the research that happiness is a choice, and we're going to choose it.
That's wonderful. And just growing that sense of connection, because, in some ways we're with social media and the world getting smaller and technology, we're more connected than ever, but we're lonelier and more isolated than ever at the same time. So bringing people together in person is just really powerful. I think that's incredible.
Oh, thank you. And big time. I mean, listen, social media makes me miserable sometimes. Yeah. I'm like, oh, why does that person already, why do they have their books out and I don't? Or, oh, look how skinny that one is. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like everybody else's life is perfect. And so it's time to come back together and connect and get real and authentic, and then to celebrate one another. Like, these are going to be celebrations where women are, learning what their strengths are and embracing them and embodying them. And we're going to set it up so that you get support for some of your challenges, and then you get mirroring of your greatest strengths and celebration and uplifting toward your real dreams. And I truly believe that when women come together and do that in an authentic, real way, it's going to heal and change this world.
Oh, that's amazing. So again, how can people find out about this event or even just get in touch with you to learn more about Purpose Girl and all the work that you're doing?
Thank you, Carolyn. So you can find out about this event at womenshappy.com, WOMENS happy.com. Or you can go to my website, which is purposegirl.com, and you'll see it right there on the homepage, a link to Women's Global Happiness Day. And you can sign up just to get information. I'll be doing an online event where I interview a few experts in the field. If you sign up to get information, you'll be invited to that expert event, or you can sign up to attend an event and we'll see if there's one near you locally, or you could sign up to host an event and just get more information. Or maybe someone's out there and they want to sponsor it. We can do that too. So
fantastic. As we close out, is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know, or anything else that they can help or support you with?
Oh, thank you so much. No, I'm delighted to be on your podcast, Carolyn. I love what you're doing. I'm so inspired by you, so proud of you. I love, love, love seeing you go after this dream. And anyone out there, I just want you to remember that every dream you have is possible. it's always a matter of, instead of saying, well, I can't because, asking, how can I? And then taking a step forward. And I love hearing from you. So please go to purposegirl.com. Right on the homepage, you can sign up to get a free Living on Purpose guide. And you download a multi-page ebook that asks you all sorts of questions that we were doing on some of it on this podcast, but a whole guide that will help you begin to uncover your purpose. And so go make sure you get your free guide. And I would love to hear from you.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you again, Carin. It was great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Beyond 6 Seconds. Please help us spread the word about this podcast. Share it with a friend, give us a shout out on your social media, or write a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player. You can find all of our episodes on our website, www.beyond6seconds.com. Until next time.